Hi, and welcome to Unemployed Musicians. This is a podcast where we talk about all sorts of music-related topics, including our backgrounds in music, why we love it, why we hate it, and why you should be interested in it. So, this is our show. My name is Alec.
And I'm Lewis.
And welcome to Unemployed Musicians. So, for our first episode, we're going to talk about our past and how we got into music and all the things of why we do what we do. So, Lewis, why don't you tell me about how you first started to play music?
Thank you, Alec. I started playing piano at the age of 6. I come from a musical family, and both my parents played piano as well. So that's, I guess, one reason why I started playing piano way back when. And I switched to the guitar around 12 and 13 because in middle school, when I heard this obscure song called called Iron Man by Black Sabbath, that's when I found out that I wanted to play guitar. So I was like, hey, Mom, should let me play some guitar. How about that? And then she's like, all right, okay, sure, but first I want you to learn the Spanish style or the classical one with the nylon strings and stuff like that. She didn't even know
the Spanish one, just the generic Spanish one, the one that they play in Spain.
The fat guy with the round glasses and the guitar. So
Andres
Segovia, whatever that one was. Anyway, so she didn't even know exactly what she was talking about, and I certainly had no clue. But eventually I had one anyway. And of course, to add insult to injury, around the time of middle school and high school, had like these butterfly designs around the sound hole.
Butterfly designs.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
because how old were you then?
Yeah, like 13.
13. So because every 13-year-old boy wants butterflies and flowers
on the guitar. Yeah, I wanted to play
like
rock music and
Yeah, see, I got lucky with my first classical guitar because it had like these diamond patterns in the middle, and it had these straight lines on either side. So I always thought it looked like TIE fighters. So it was a joke. I got the TIE Fighter guitar.
You got the awesome one.
So I got the awesome
end of the deal there.
Butterflies. I mean, unless you really like butterflies. I mean, I like butterflies.
They look cool, but not on a guitar. Not on a guitar, especially when you want to play metal. That's like one of the least metal things you can do.
Yeah, it's not goth enough.
Unless it's
butterflies.
And it wasn't the goth kind. It just did not fit that profile.
Okay, so you had a butterfly guitar.
I had a butterfly guitar.
Started playing classical guitar.
I started playing classical, and as well some other kind of finger styles, kind of random finger style pieces and such. A mix, because my first teacher was the guy that just kind of had his own little private studio.
Sure.
And it wasn't long until I started working with Renee Izquierdo and Lena Chekin in the pre-college program at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, which, by the way, we're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
We're in Milwaukee. Yeah, we should mention that probably.
Yeah.
We're mentioning it now.
We're mentioning it now, so that's what counts.
We are in Milwaukee in the 5th Ward, broadcasting from the Junior House Lofts.
It's a nice place. I like this place a lot, minus the occasional cars on the outside. So
city traffic.
Yeah, exactly. So I started playing, classical, and got more serious with it in high school because I realized too, and so my professors were like, hey, so did my professors. I need to enunciate. I realized, like, hey, I actually can play this pretty well, and it comes on more naturally than things like sports and that kind of stuff. So
you found that you had something you were good at.
Yes.
That you liked and enjoyed doing.
Something that I was good at and people liked me for it. So it's like, people like me, I have friends
That's
now.
always a good feeling when you can do something that you like that other people also like listening to you do.
Exactly. So I started playing in high school, started taking it more seriously, and I realized too that I also enjoyed playing it when I played Leo Brouwer's Etude Number 6.
Etude Number 6.
Yeah. That's when I realized I actually really liked it, and there was something more.
Isn't that the one that was inspired by a Black Sabbath song? This is allegedly. I don't know. I heard this rumor.
Don't quote me on that, but I heard there was a Brouwer piece or an etude that was inspired by or even kind of copied from a Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne riff.
Yeah.
I don't know for 100% fact. So again, don't quote me on that. I won.
So the Etude 6 essentially is your Iron Man.
It was the Iron Man of classical guitar. It was the Iron Man of classical guitar.
There's a Black Sabbath theme going on here.
Yeah, there's a
Beware.
motif, a Black Sabbath motif. Yeah, he said beware.
Beware.
No,
Okay.
it's gonna come back. So I was on top of playing classical guitar, I did some rock band stuff in high school too.
We all did, of course. You gotta do the rock.
Every guitarist has to be in a rock band at some point,
You gotta try it once, just at least once.
You gotta give it a taste. Testing it out.
Yeah.
And then I decided I wanted to use it to get into music for music school because, well, one, at the time, it was like, for music, it's the only thing I'm good at, so that's all I did for. But also was...
Of course.
Yeah. It was also my ticket into school because I actually didn't get accepted the first time around. So I was on like an academic probation my first year because I didn't do the best in high school. The classes I struggled with, I just wasn't the best with the more academic side. So
yeah.
And then
None of us are really.
Yeah. So then when I was in college, basically my sophomore year, that's when I really found out I had like a really strong love for classical music, in particular like Beethoven in that classical era, classical romantic era. I started falling in love with like all of that. So that's when I really discovered that I wanted to like play it.
Me too. I love that music.
Exactly. That's why we have the podcast. That's why we started it.
So that's what got you into classical music essentially. So you have this Black Sabbath thing going on, but you listen to all these great composers from Beethoven and Chopin and say, you know what, there's something going on here too, right?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. So when I heard Beethoven's Fifth for the first time, the full thing.
The full thing, yeah, not the first
not
like
just the
5 seconds, dun
motive,
dun dun dun.
Yeah, exactly.
Dun dun dun. Oh, that's it. That's all we need to know. No, there's actually like a whole nother like 10 minutes to that piece, plus 3 other movements. 3 other movements.
Yeah,
4
3 other
total,
movements.
right?
4 movements in total.
Sorry, I'm forgetting my symphony.
Well, it's actually funny because a few years ago when I saw the Milwaukee Symphony play Beethoven's Fifth on the program notes, I think they nailed it perfectly. It said it's a shame that a lot of people just affiliate it with the first opening motif and kind of scoff at it and just laugh it off.
Yeah, myself included. It's hard for me to even listen to the beginning motif because of all the other things that I think of that are, silly and comical that we see in cartoons.
Yeah, cartoons, movie parodies, advertisements, all of that. But
it's almost become a cliche in a sense. But it's actually a great piece of music if you just listen to it for what it is without...
Exactly. In the program notes, they said that you have to detach yourself from any preconceived ideas that you have about or how your knowledge beforehand and approach it as if you're listening to it for the first time. And that, I think, is the best way of describing it.
It's hard to do. It's really hard to do.
It is.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So you heard that piece of music and listened to it just like that for the first time.
Yeah.
Without trying to think of all the other negative associations that go along with it.
I honestly didn't even have the negative associations.
You didn't even have them
to the
then?
second, third, and fourth. Only the first movement. And even the first movement's the only one.
Right, you never hear them. So.
Exactly, and that's the other thing. Until you hear the rest of the movement, it's like, oh, hey, those don't have the same.
Yeah. So listen to the Fifth Symphony all the way through by Beethoven. You never know. You could develop a great love for classical music just by doing that.
David Zinman, I think he conducts it really well.
Great. So that's how you started. So what made you decide that you want to keep doing this? So you develop a passion, love, but what's the next step after that? So you went to school, you graduated, and your plan is to what do you want to do with it now?
Mainly, I think...
Big question. I'm sorry.
That's a big question.
But just, in a nutshell.
I like to compose music. When I heard Beethoven's Fifth, I was like, I want to write music. That's definitely...
Cool.
And guitar was my means to...
Guitar is a medium
to make and express music.
To be a composer.
Using guitars, not using music as a means to play guitar, but using it as but yes, vice versa. Using the guitar as my means of making
make music and be a musician.
Yes,
that's great.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Lewis, for telling your story. It's very inspiring.
Now, Alec, why don't you tell me your story? The same thing, basically.
Well, my story is very similar, so I'll try not to ramble on too much. So I also started first with classical, but I didn't ever want to play electric guitar until much later in life, actually. So I always listened to Mozart as a kid. I love Mozart. Mozart is my favorite, and that's kind of got me into being inspired by music. And I had a family friend that taught classical guitar lessons, actually. So I started taking classical guitar lessons, and just developed a love for it. Found that by the time in high school, when you're 17, 18, you're deciding, what are you going to do? Am I going to study architecture, design, all these other interests I had? Am I going to play golf? Because I also play golf on the side. But I just, something about music and about how you can make somebody's life a little bit better, a little bit more enjoyable by playing a piece of music. And I was doing a gig. I was playing background music for a garden party when I was in high school. I was about 17. And at the end of my set, somebody came up to me and they told me, I really enjoyed listening to your music. It was, it really made the evening enjoyable.
Yeah, that was like a similar thing for me too, which I forgot to mention was, I had like friends in particular, there's one friend in particular that we did music and band stuff with, and he always told me how much he liked my music and my riffs and stuff like that. So of course, getting that feedback from peers really helps give you a clearer sense of like what you're kind of meant to be doing, so to speak.
Yeah. So I had that, and at this point, I'm doing gigs, so I'm fairly competent at the instrument, and it's probably was the best thing I was doing at the time, and that kind of made a click in my mind of like, hey, this is something that I enjoy doing, that like you're saying, that somebody else actually appreciates. So then, in that sense, it's pretty much worth it from right to start. If you can affect one person with your music and make their life a little bit better with what you're doing, then it's pretty much worth it from there. So after that, I went to Bachelor, went to Montreal and got my master's in guitar performance, and that's kind of that's how I got into it.
So what, I guess, what is your kind of essential goal or like a thing that you want to do in music as well?
Well, I've always loved performing on stage and performing music and bringing music to other people. Mm-hmm. So I want to be a performer. That's my degree was in performance, and that's one of my main objectives is to be a performer.
Okay. So after studying music and going through the whole school programs and everything, why do you think music is important? Not just to us musicians, but to just non-musicians at all, even to the most non-musically inclined of people, because they are out there. So,
well, of course, there's many answers you could come up with for that question, but one thing is just to lift up your experience in life. That's what we do as artists and musicians, I think, is simply to make the whole experience of existence a little bit better. And that's kind of it. Everything else just kind of follows from that. Everything that you do is just trying to, take something that's a little bit weird and, what is life, what is existence, and just trying to make it bearable.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point. I think one of my problems with a lot of people in like art communities and in general, so include like music obviously. So when I say art communities, I'm including music, but it's like they take themselves very seriously and kind of pretentious or elitist, and it's very alienating for like non-musicians. When I think there's just that important aspect of just like making music and art just like fun, as long as it's fun and enjoyable to any degree. Then the sort of the philosophical parts can come after that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think. Like, for example, Beethoven's music, like all the philosophical questions that came after his time and everything, that would have happened if it weren't for just his music just being good on its own and just standing on its own. Like, even though his music had people asking all sorts of questions about what is art, where do we go from here, you take all those questions out of the picture and the whole debate and everything, Beethoven's music still stands on its own for what it is.
It really does. Yeah.
So I think it's just that important aspect of making music fun.
Yeah,
essentially.
and that's an excellent point, because I think that's true for any good music that's out there, whether it be classical, jazz, pop, rock and roll. If it's good music, it's going to stand on its own. It doesn't need a reason to be there. It's just going to make. It's just by existing, just by listening to it, it'll somehow enhance the existence of life and things like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, with all that said, considering everything you have experienced now up to this point, would you say it's still worth it?
Absolutely, yes. It's absolutely worth it to study music. I mean, I don't know why.
Fair enough.
No, I know why. I know why. For me, it's totally worth it because I love music. I love performing. That's my way of expressing myself. I'm not as good at public speaking, and I'm not a very verbal person. But when I play the guitar and when I can really speak in another way. It's a different way of expressing, my thoughts and not just feelings, because it's thoughts too. Ideas that you have when you're writing music and things can really come out in a different way when you're playing music. And so that's my outlet. It's kind of like, in some sense, I need to do it. And many artists say this. They need to say it. So it kind of stems from that. But then, of course, why do it for a living?
Mm-hmm.
Why not just have it as a hobby? And that goes back to the first thing of why music at all. And because I believe how powerful music is to, because I believe in the power of music and how much it means to other people and how much it can impact not only my life but other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that as someone that has developed a talent and put a lot of time into being good at an instrument, it is then my duty to, in some sense, to not keep that under,
Kind of paying it back or paying it
paying
forward
it back.
a little bit.
Yeah, paying it back. Like
Mhm.
in the sense that well, not to brag, because it sounds boastful, but because I feel like I have a talent that most people don't have
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
in playing music,
Yeah.
and playing a classical instrument especially, that is almost then becomes my job to then deliver it to the rest of the world, whether I really like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I want to or not, I have something to offer, and I should.
Yeah.
And it's those two things. essentially.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. No, and I think absolutely just that the need to do it, so to speak. I've been hearing about recently from other podcasts about creativity and creative people in
Yeah.
general. It's like with creative people, they have to do creative work, or else they just wither up and die. They just
Mhm.
become useless
Yeah.
deadwood. And I know that was kind of the case for me. Kind of going through college, especially, because even though I was in the music school, this is a whole topic for another time, but I felt there were other times where I couldn't quite pursue the more creative aspects of music like how I wanted to.
Yeah, that's universities can be death to creativity.
Yeah. So
They really can. So be careful of universities.
that's a topic for another time, though.
Yes.
So
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you the same question, Louis. So why do you want to, after going through all the university degrees, studying music, do you think it's still worth it? Is it worth it for you to go through that trouble and to be a musician?
So I think at this point, I definitely can't imagine my life without it.
Yeah.
So that part's certainly true. And even though I'm not 100% sure where things will go from here, I at least know that something I will do will be indirectly involved with music or inspired by it, or the things I learned in music will help and assist whatever other things I plan to do. Even like this podcast, for example, the time it takes to plan and prepare for it, with everything. It's a similar, like how you plan and prepare a rehearsal
Right.
for a performance,
Yeah.
that kind of similar process. And of course, I still want to write music, so of course that's something I still continue to do and
Mhm.
pursue to this day. It'll always be either the forefront or on the back burner, wherever it works from there. So yeah, I can't imagine my life without it in some way or another. But where the music school is worth it, universities, that's a topic for another time.
That's a big topic.
It's
Yeah.
a big topic for another time. So
Yes or no? Is it worth it?
Yeah. Wait.
Universities, studying music in a university. Yes or no?
No comment. No comment. No comment. Let's say
Yes,
let's say that
it
once. It's don't quote me. Not yet.
I say yes.
You say it was worth it?
Yeah, I say it's worth it. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, a topic for another time.
Depends. It's complicated.
So one thing I want to touch on, is so we all study different instruments. You played piano for a bit, then guitar. I also
Mhm.
played piano, and we could have picked up other instruments, but we both stuck with guitar. So can you tell me a little bit why the guitar is so great, why you decided to stick with it?
Well, there's a lot of mixed reasons for why that is for me personally, and a little bit more complex. I don't want to get too into detail. I'd be talking for a long time about that, but essentially, because I actually kind of went back and forth. Where there's even a time where I almost wanted to go back to piano. I still kind of do, as opposed to guitar, because I actually like the piano better. The piano is actually my favorite instrument.
But why play guitar?
Yeah,
then?
no, exactly.
So tell us, what's so great about the guitar?
Well, there's things, school reasons, like being in school, sticking with it, but also I think classical guitar. Definitely, like I stuck with the style more as opposed to going into other styles because I do think it's the best one out of the others. I'm not saying the other ones are bad by any means or lesser. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. I think that's safe to say. But I stuck with classical because I already was I was a lot better with that at my current state than with piano. So it just would have been more logical to just stick with classical guitar.
So just logic reasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, partially logic too.
Is there anything great about the classical guitar that's where like you just stuck with it and that's it?
I know that's like it's definitely it's like no, it's really depressing. It's like the guitar is basically shit. It's shit.
It is.
I just stuck with it because what is great about the guitar? It's
a hard question, just an essential.
No, I mean it's a niche. It's a niche of its instrument. It has a lot of color and sounds that you can get that. And I mean, even when I was in grad school, actually, I played a set of selections from a song cycle, John Rutter, Shadows, with a baritone. And I remember there was a guy who came to watch the recital. He was a pianist. And after the recital, he told me that I was like, oh wow, like I didn't even know the guitar could do that. And that wasn't too long ago. That was like 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 about. So it wasn't that long ago when there's still people to this day, other musicians, good musicians, where they still have like virtually no idea that classical guitar exists and even what it's capable of. I guess that's why I stuck with it is because it's capable of a lot more than what we give it credit for, including other classical guitars, I think.
Yeah, maybe. So is it maybe part of that feeling of duty that you have this something that you can share with other people?
Yeah. There's definitely still something to kind of offer or give.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah. So how about yourself?
Yeah, well, for me, so many reasons I love the guitar.
Yeah.
But I hate it too. I hate it and love it.
It's a love-hate. It's a love-hate relationship.
It's always a love-hate when you play an instrument, of course.
Yeah.
But one thing I love is the timbre sounds that you can get from the guitar. You have a lot of variety. You can get dark, soft colors. You can bright, harsh colors. You can make it sound like different instruments. You can be percussive. You can be lyrical. So you have all these different ways of playing the instrument, which makes it very adaptable for all these different styles. That's why you see so many transcriptions of different musics played on
Scarlatti.
Scarlatti, Bach. I even did some of Chopin that worked pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And so just that adaptability. I love that you can hold it, in your lap, kind of almost like you're cradling like another person. And so, and in some weird sense, that person is, of course, yourself, your own experience that you're expressing. So it's kind of like this comforting thing. You can feel the vibrations of the instruments, like against your chest when you play it, in the bass notes. And for whatever reason, all those things are really comforting to me, and those are the reasons why I play the guitar. Versus a piano, it's not as I'm not as involved with it. It's just a keyboard that you hit.
That's an interesting point about the idea of like cradling the guitar, because I never thought about that before. It is cool in some of the positions, some respects, that I think about, because again, back in high school, it's an awkward thing, but when you get more used to it, there's something cool, like unique about the way you hold it compared to any other instrument. I never thought about how it felt, like the vibrations on the body of the guitar, but I did.
That's what I think about all the time.
For me,
it's a very intimate instrument.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For me, what I always find satisfying to this day is like rolling especially after you file your nails, which that's a whole other topic for another time. But when you file your nails, like for when after reshaping them, and then when you just roll like a really good chord, you get like a really good sound from it.
Yeah.
That's a really satisfying. That's the one thing.
Yeah, that sound.
Really,
the sound that
really
you get.
satisfying feeling that you get from playing the guitar.
I just think I think that's one thing. Like almost every musician would say, is that why do you play? Your instrument. I guarantee they will have something to say about the sound of that instrument they're playing. Like, because if you don't love the sound you're getting, you're probably not going to stick with it. So
Yeah,
and that's
true.
Like you just said, for me, it's the same. When you get that good sound out of the guitar, you always fight for it. Guitar is so easily, we play with our nails and tips of the fingers, and if it's not quite right, it's not there. So it's always that struggle. But when you have that good sound, there's nothing better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing too is like compared to a piano, where it's like a little bit when you play a piano, maybe because we're not professional pianists to the extent where so maybe it might feel different for a real pianist, but like whenever I'm at the piano, it just sort of feels like me and the piano, because it's just you and this like massive thing in front of you that you're just trying to do. And there's some ways where it could kind of feel like you're expressing like a ton. If you're like a virtuoso or composer, you're expressing a ton of ideas.
And if people like that sort of dynamic and can feel attached to it, I never really did with the piano. I love the piano, love its music, but it just never felt comfortable to play as it did with the guitar.
Yeah.
So that's why I stuck with guitar.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Well, that was our podcast, our first episode of Unemployed Musicians.
Yes. Stay tuned for next week's podcast, where we talk about
whatever we feel like talking about.
Yeah.
We'll think of a topic for next time.
Yeah. So if you like listening to us ramble on about music, please hit the subscribe button, like, and feel free to share any comments in the comment section below.
The bell. Hit that bell too, because you want
what you like, what you hated, what you wish we'd stop talking about, what you wish we'd talk about more. Please let us know. And until next time, I'm Alec.
I'm Lewis.
Good night.